Hey everyone, it's Tico, and lately I've watched a lot of videos on out-of-body experiences and lucid dreaming, and the reason why I wanted to make this video was it seems like a lot of the information and a lot of the tips towards these things are kind of the same information, just getting rehashed. And so what I wanted to share was 5 tips for having an out-of-body experience or lucid dreaming. I'll talk about the distinction a little bit through this video, but here's 5 tips that actually work or have worked for me, right? And hopefully you haven't heard them before. So the first I was going to say, tip number 1 is have no preconceived idea of what this experience is going to look like. Okay, I think this is a really big one. A lot of people, when they're going in to have an out-of-body experience, or if you were waking up in a dream, we could say out-of-body experience was called dreaming awake, or a lucid dream, being awake in a sleep dream. When they're trying to have that, there's so many reports of what this should look like, and there's so many, the preconceived notions. I guess I would just say from my personal experience that many of my out-of-body experiences have varied extremely, all the way through very intangible things to very realistic and tangible and simple things. So I guess what I would say is it's very similar to like reading a trip report prior to taking your own trip, where it's useful to hear other people's experiences and it's interesting. However, really be careful not to form a preconceived idea about that. All right, so that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, I was going to say, research and look into something called shamanic journeying. I feel like shamanic journeying, which is an ancient native practice, is gets deeper to this real core root of what is a quote-unquote out-of-body experience, or what is a lucid dream that allows us to travel into different dimensions, okay? This is something, ancient human birthright for us to be able to access. And what's fascinating about what's called shamanic journeying is that through all cultures across the globe, there was something called the Axis Mundi, right? Which was like what they call it, the world tree. It was the axis of the earth, and they were able to use kind of this like visual representation of this metaphor to get out of body and to access these different dimensions. And it's almost like these neural pathways or these energetic pathways were already created for us. So what I would recommend, a great tip, before you're even trying to have necessarily an out-of-body experience, is to look into shamanic dreaming, read about it, research it, and try some of those practices, because they're really going to align, okay? The third tip I was going to say is to talk about your experiences a lot, your out-of-body experiences and your dream experiences. So this means being able to kind of like break down your own personal stereotypes about like, this isn't just something like to have in conversation. This also means building a community for yourself, whether it's, your friends or people at work or whomever, that you just get used to describing about your dreams, that you are a person that talks about your out-of-body experiences or your lucid dreaming experiences, okay? That helps a lot. So instead of just you trying to remember or write it down, that you're calling people in the morning or you're texting someone and being like, wow, this dream I had, or this out-of-body experience I had last night, and this is what happened, or these are the pieces that I remember. Even just by accessing that part of your brain about, oh, these are the pieces that I remember, and you're telling someone else and getting their feedback, it kicks your brain into thinking about remembering. You might remember some more of those other pieces. It's going to encourage you while you're working on it more. People are going to ask you questions, right? So that's a really big thing, to be able to build yourself a personalized community where you can talk with your friends or family about your dreaming. The 4th tip I wrote down was called look for stupid proofs. And proof might be the wrong word. I guess this just comes out of my personal experience. Even just a few days ago, I was having an out-of-body experience, and it was really surreal in a lot of ways. And then right before, when I came back to my body, I even said to myself, I want to do a test or, proof to see this and that. And so in this out-of-body experiences, right before I got back in my body, I reached over and picked up my phone, which was next to me, on the table while I was having this experience. And I was laying there, and I looked at the phone, and it said a particular time. And then when I came back to my body, I picked up my phone, and the time matched. So that was something that was really interesting to me, a correlation there, right? There was another one where I had an out-of-body experience, and I was running through my house, and again, it was real and it was concrete, but there were bits of surreality to it. And I just did a really stupid proof. I looked in the sink to see what was in the sink, and in there was this red Tupperware. And so then when I came back to my body, I walked downstairs, and sure enough, one of my roommates had left a red Tupperware in the sink. So looking for these little kind of like proofs for yourself, or pulling information back that you can recollect on later, that would be my tip number 4. And then my last and final tip might seem counterintuitive, but it's actually to not try and control the experience, at least not at first, not for many, many practices. I think this is where a lot of people get caught up. This is like the number one thing in a lot of ways, which is that, and it kind of gets back to the first tip about having a preconceived idea, right? The whole point of lucid dreaming or having an out-of-body experience is that we're in control of our consciousness. We can control these things, right? And a lot of people go into lucid dreaming because, oh, I want to be able to fly, or I want to X, Y, Z, I want to have these experiences, right? What I've found is if you really want to have these out-of-body experiences, lucid dreaming experience, it's almost a bit of surrendering to the experience. So you intend to be awake and cognizant through it. You're intending to have your out-of-body experience. You're going into it, and then just allow it to unfold as is and come back as is. At least for many, many times before, instead of, creating or recreating or influencing that experience. So those are 5 tips for out-of-body experience in lucid dreaming, and I really hope that helps you on your journey. Infinite blessings.